Good morning, everyone. It is the second part of our Back to Nature series with Miss Katy from Leila Arboretum. We are so excited to have you guys back. How are you doing today, Miss Katy?
Oh, I'm doing very well. I am out in the garden today on this gorgeous, gorgeous morning. So can't complain about that at all.
So, what are we going to explore today?
Well, today we're going to be talking a little bit about pollination. So we're going to look at flowers and the critters that like to visit them.
Okay. Well, I do want to let everyone know that we are live. So please, 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 we love it when you have questions or write comments. They'll show up on the screen as you send them to us. But also make sure you have your kit ready because Miss Katie will be showing you how to do all the activities that are in the kit. So I'm going to say goodbye and I'm going to hand it over to Miss Katie.
All right, fantastic. Hello, my friends. I'm so happy to be back again on this gorgeous day. A few things that you are going to need from your kit today, if your mom or dad can help you out and get them ready, is in your little packet, there is a little spritz bottle, just this tiny little water bottle. If you can ask mom or dad to go fill that up while we're talking. And while they're doing that, also grab a pair of scissors, okay? Those scissors will come in handy as we do our activities today. But last week we were out and we were on a hunt. We used our binoculars to search for flowers. And we found flowers in all different shapes and sizes and colors. And we took a look at one of my favorite flowers, the dandelion, right? And we saw that they went all the way to these wonderful little wish flowers here. We're able to make a wish as we blow all those seeds away. But what I want to know is how we get from a flower like this to our seeded flower. Okay, how does the flower turn to seeds? And that has to do with pollination. Okay, now before we get into what pollination is, let's take a close look at that flower. Okay, so here I have, this is just an artificial flower. But if we take a close look here, you can see in the center of that flower, it's got some different parts inside. And we can see those parts in different flowers out in nature. This is a flower that I took from our greenhouse. We're starting to grow our vegetables already. We've got some peas that are growing in there and some onions, and we've got herbs. And then I found some squash blossoms as I was looking earlier. And just like that little fake flower we had, if I take my squash blossom here, line it up just right, you might be able to see inside there that there are some different flower parts. There we go. Some different flower parts in there. They might look a little bit different, but those parts are really important to the flower because they're going to hold the pollen, okay? Flowers that on the inside of the petals, what their goal is they are just, they're wanting to draw in some critters that love our flowers. Our butterfly, you can see I'm sitting on my butterfly bench. Our bees, you can see the bees on the hot air balloon behind me, right? So we have our bees and our butterflies are drawn to these flowers. They want to get inside those flowers and they're trying to drink from the very center of a flower. They're trying to get in there to a very sweet water called nectar. Okay, that nectar is going to nourish our butterflies. It's going to nourish our bees, and when they do, they end up touching the parts of the flower that hold the pollen. Now, you might have heard an adult talk about pollen before. This time of year, we hear a lot of talk about pollen because pollen makes us sneeze. Excuse me. Pollen makes us sneeze often this time of year because there's so much of it as our nature is waking up and those flowers are growing and they're putting that pollen out into the air and so that the butterflies and bees get it as well. Because that pollen wants to go from one flower over to another flower. Okay, now the reason why is because when that pollen goes from one flower to the next flower, that pollination is what allows the seeds to form. Okay, it's going to fertilize those eggs inside that plant and make the seeds. Okay, so that's how we get from a flower from our flower to our seeds. Now, again, that's going to look different. We saw this last time. Remember these flowers here from our pine tree? They look kind of like worms. They're one of my favorites. Those are tree flowers. Again, those are putting out pollen. They actually use the wind to scatter it. And so they're going to put the pollen out into the air, and then hopefully it will land on a different flower and start to create this. Okay, so this is a very young pine cone. Ooh, we've got some shadow there. Very young pine cone here. You can see that it's very soft as I move it. It's kind of colorful. It's going to grow and grow and grow until it becomes a larger pine cone. Where did that go? Until it becomes a larger pine cone that's more, oh, right here. Fell down on the ground. There we go. A larger pine cone. So this is actually from the exact same tree. Okay, so this is just a young, fresh one. This is last year's pine cone. And inside that pine cone, underneath each one of these petals, was a pine seed, okay, or a spruce seed in this case, depending on which type of conifer we're looking at. But all the seeds are underneath each one of those petals, and they'll open up and then drop those seeds. So even though these flowers look really different, they still have the pollen. Every flower is going to have that pollen, those pollen parts, so that that plant can create seeds and continue on that life cycle. So our activity today, we've got two things we're going to do. The first one is we're going to be using that black sheet of paper from your kit, and we're going to take a look into how pollination works. So Miss Katy is going to work off a clipboard, but you can just put this on your desk in front of you. And we're going to create a little flower garden here. Oh, also in your kit is a little baggie that has some chalk in it. And we're going to make a couple of flowers with this chalk. So we learned last week that flowers have different shapes and sizes. So maybe one of my flowers is going to be big and round. Here we go, in the shape of a circle. Okay, I'm going to put a stem on that and some leaves. My leaves are in the shape of triangles, so I have a circle and triangles on my flower. My next flower, let's see here, another shape I can use. Oh, here we go. This one we're going to start by drawing the shape of a letter U. Close your eyes and think real hard about what the letter U looks like. Now we're going to draw that. It's kind of like a smile. So we're going to start up top. There we go. So I've got the letter U. And then again, I'm going to give a zigzag up at the top, give some
Oh no, it looks like Mrs. Katy is having some technical difficulties again. While we are waiting for her to come back on, please, have you seen any pollinators out in your backyard? Have you seen any bees? Have you seen any butterflies? I would like to really hear about that. Also, have you been enjoying the series so far? Do you enjoy the things that we have provided in the kits? I really hope so. And as you know, anytime we go live, there are bound to be some things that are going to go wrong. But we want to make sure that while we're waiting for Miss Katie to come back, I would love to hear what you guys are doing. Are you excited about summer? I know for most kids, school is almost out. So this would be my favorite time if I was back in school because we don't have much left to go. Also, did you know that Willard Library is having a summer reading program? We are going to start. There she is. All right.
I changed devices, and we'll see if this works. Is this working? All right. So I'm eager to continue on because we should have our flowers started, our garden here. Thanks so much for your patience. We're all learning more and more about technology every day these days. So thank you again. Here we have our garden. So we've got our tulips started. We're just going to color that in. And then again, I'm going to draw some leaves on it. And then our next flower, what we're gonna do, this one's gonna be a little bit different because I wanna leave it empty, okay? It's gonna be part of our experiment. So you're just gonna do, we're gonna do another circle flower with a stem and some leaves. Just like that, okay? Now we're gonna set this aside for a minute, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a little bit of a, we're gonna create a small finger puppet. So in your bag, you're going to pull out the yellow pipe cleaner and one of your black pipe cleaners. And what you're going to do is you're going to take those, you're going to pinch them between your hand, your thumb, and your finger, and you're going to wrap them around just like this until it reminds you of one of our pollinators. We're making a little bit of a bee right now. Wrapping it all in there. So here I have my little bee fluttering about, buzzing about, I guess. Buzz, 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 buzz. Buzz, 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 buzz. And our bees are going to be on the search for some, again, some good nectar. So they might find a garden nearby. So pull out your garden. And what your bee is going to do is it's going to buzz from one flower. And then it's going to go to the other flower. And does anybody notice anything happening to your bee? It's getting dust on it, right? So when it goes to the next flower, this empty flower, I actually leave a little bit of a mark there. So I'm going to go from one flower, buzz, 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 buzz. Sound effects make it better always. So buzz, 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 buzz. Buzz, 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 buzz. And you can see that we're slowly coloring in this flower by transferring that chalk from one flower to the next, just by getting in there for that nectar. We're getting pollen all over our bodies. And that happens in real life with bees, okay? Bees are going to go from flower to flower to flower. And as they do, they're trying to drink the nectar out from the very center. So they are going to find a yummy looking flower. They're going to crawl all the way inside that. And they're actually going to get some of that pollen on their body as they're drinking that nectar and take it to the next flower. So when they crawl in, some of that pollen gets left behind on that flower, allowing those seeds to form. That's what pollination is. And I bet you if I unwind a little bit of my bee, I'm going to take this black end right here and I get into my squash blossom. I see some pollen in there. I'm going to just kind of dust around in there and take a look. Oh, where's my camera now? Take a look at that. Do you guys see that little bit of yellow on there? That is real life pollen, okay? It is in there, it's going to go from flower to flower. And then as that happens, that pollen goes down a tube in that flower and then allows those seeds to form so that that flower can transform from one form into that seed form, or from our dandelion into our wishing flowers. So that's how pollination works. Now, bees are excellent examples of pollinators. But another great example are butterflies, okay? And butterflies are, they also land on the flowers. They have a really cool method to them, because what they do is they look for a nice flat flower, something with a nice broad head, and they'll land on that flower. And then what they do is they use their feet to taste whether that's a good food source. Can you imagine if you tasted with your feet? That's crazy. So they taste with their feet, and then when it's time for them to eat, they will uncurl their mouth part. It looks kind of like a party blower. It'll uncurl their mouth part and then slurp it up like a straw, slurp the nectar up. As they do so, they also get pollen on their bodies, and that's going to allow our that pollen to transfer from flower to flower. So, in honor of our pollinators today, we have a beautiful craft we're going to make. We are going to do these lovely butterflies here. Okay, they're using very common ingredients. They're using common tools today. The supplies. The first one we're going to use is a coffee filter. So again, Miss Katy is out in nature, so I'm using a clipboard today. And we got my coffee filter there. And then in your bag, you should have 3 different colors of markers. Our goal for the next couple minutes is we are just going to put as much color, cover as much of the white as we can with color. It doesn't have to be a picture that we're drawing. In fact, Scribble Scrabble works the best, because when we do our last step, it's going to blend everything together. You won't be able to tell what kind of colors we had. So you can see I'm just doing some quick little Scribble Scrabble on there, getting some color on my coffee filter here. These are just washable markers. And adding some color. If you haven't already, now is a great time to fill those water spritzers while your kids are coloring. Add a lot of brown here. But you'll see that I'm just trying to cover a lot of territory in a short amount of time. It doesn't have to be any particular pattern. Quick works well when working with the coffee filters. I'm gonna add a little line. Little extra on each here. Ooh. A couple spots. All right, and then my last color, try and fill in some of those empty spots. Using my yellow here. And what's kind of cool is each one is going to just look a little bit different. I've done them in all different colors, different patterns, different techniques. They always end up beautiful no matter what. So I'm excited to see if anybody wants to post theirs when they're done onto our Facebook page or in the comments to this video. You can show us how your craft turned out. But this little butterfly, this is going to end up being a beautiful watercolor type butterfly. Okay. All right. So I just added the last bit of color. You can see that it doesn't have to be perfect. Just trying to get a lot of color on those coffee filters. And then we're going to do what we call an accordion fold. If you remember from last week, we're going to kind of fold a little bit one way and a little bit the other way to make this accordion shaped folding pattern here. So taking our, maybe I still need my, my prep here. So I'm just going to kind of fold a little bit down, maybe about a half an inch or so. And then you'll flip it over and then flip and then fold, flip, and then fold, flip, fold, flip, fold, flip, fold, flip, fold. One last time there. And you can see I'm kind of already starting to make a shape here with my butterfly, okay? Now, Miss Katy does this step first because it keeps with washable markers. Your fingers will get colored if you do it in a different order. So I like to do the folding and the pipe cleaner work first. But in your bag, you should have one more black pipe cleaner. You don't need the whole thing. So if you got those scissors earlier, you can just cut it right in half, just like that. Save the other one for another project, or you can throw it away. But you're going to take your pipe cleaner and put it right in the middle, fold it in half, and then give it a little bit of a twist. Okay? Then I always like to bend those antennae down just a little bit, make them look like real butterfly with the knobby antenna. That's how to tell the difference between a butterfly and a moth, in case you didn't know, is the shape of the antenna. Whether they're feathery, if they're feathery, they're a moth. If they have the little knobs on them, like that shape there, that means that they are, that's a butterfly's shape. And you can kind of spread those wings out. Just like so. Now it already looks kind of cool in my opinion. It already looks kind of cool. So what we're going to do is make it look even better by using that spritzer. Take the lid off and you'll see it makes just a fine little mist. And so what we're going to want to do, oops, I put the wrong thing there. What you're going to do is you're going to hold your butterfly up and you're just going to give it some gentle mists a few times. You don't want to completely soak your coffee filter because that washable marker will actually wash right off that paper. So holding it and giving it a couple spritzes, you can see that color is already starting to blend. The longer it sits in that water is able to travel through that filter, it'll turn more into a little watercolory type design. And that's all there is to it. So we've got butterflies and our bee finger puppet to help us remember our pollination today. I hope you learned something new. I'm going to stick around here for just another minute. Miss Tanisha is going to help us out with any questions that might have come up.
Yes, you do have one question. Miss Stephanie wants to know, does the cold weather bother the bees?
That's a great question. Now, bees, like many insects, have to survive the Michigan winter if they're going to live here in the summertime. So animals in nature have to do a couple different things. They have to figure out a way to stay warm and survive. They can migrate like a lot of our butterflies do. Our monarch butterflies, for example, will migrate and leave to a warmer place. Or they can lay their eggs and the eggs will hatch out in the springtime, but the adults all die every winter. So there's different techniques that insects will do. Bees will return to the hive. And even though it gets really cold outside, inside their hive, they are buzzing and moving just enough to keep warm. Kind of like our body tries to shiver to keep ourselves warm. Bees are doing essentially that same thing with just a gentle buzz to keep warm enough, and then having enough bees together buzzing in that they're inside all that wax honeycomb, and they have stored food for the wintertime. They're able to survive the winter that way. Sometimes though, especially in the summertime, I might come out to the garden and in the middle of Like I might come out to a flower and I might see a little bumblebee butt sticking out of a flower in the morning and it's just frozen still. Bees need to be, I want to say it's like 60 degrees, their body temperature in
Oh,
order to fly. So when we have those cold nights, if they don't make it back to the hive, they just kind of have to hang out and wait for a warm spot till that sun warms them up enough that they can fly once again. So cold
wow.
can affect them for sure, but they have mechanisms to survive our winters and these frosts that we have.
Well,
Great
thank you
question.
so much. Yes, that was an excellent question. And Miss Katie, you did a wonderful job. And we are so excited to do the third installation of the Back to Nature series next Wednesday at 11 p.m. Everyone have a great day.
See you next
Goodbye.
week.